can find it here. I'm going to put in, if you're not registered or not licensed rather, and a licensed agent, you can still help families with DebtMerica. I'm just going to tell you where to go in the chat, and then I'll go over it again in the training. But just if you want to get a head start, I don't mind you multitasking at all. So wfg.debtmerica.com. So again, if you're not licensed, if you're new, you can start helping families now. You just need to register. It takes you like 5 minutes to do that. It's really quick and simple and easy. While I'm putting my PowerPoint up, let me kind of go into we're starting in the middle. Sorry about that, guys. I was prepping it before to make sure everything was right. I thought it would bounce back. Okay, so we've been around over 20 years at DebtMerica. We've been partnered with World Financial Group for over 15, going on 16 years. And we've had such a long, successful relationship because we provide a puzzle piece that's missing from some of your clients for you to be able to help them. We love what you guys do. And you guys are out there changing families' lives for the better. And that's a beautiful thing. And I love your business motto, no family left behind. I truly embrace it, and I've kind of stole it and made it my own. I made it my team's. Because I can't think of those more deserving not to be left behind than families who got a bad start because of credit. You know, whether it's misuse of credit or maybe a family member got sick, maybe there's job loss. We just had a COVID shutdown. A lot of by that. So it doesn't matter why. What I want you all to know is there's some for folks in that situation. We're at a very challenging time card debt wise as a nation. We keep breaking record highs. We were at 1.21 trillion or 1.141 trillion right now. That's trillion, guys. That's just credit card debt. 1.141 trillion. That's a lot of zeros, right? And that's just credit card debt. Household debt's well over 17 trillion. A lot of this was acquired over the shutdown. The COVID shutdown. A lot of people struggling. We thought we were going to be out of work for a couple of weeks, and it ended up being almost 4 years. And it affected a lot of people negatively, some more than others, but a lot of people had to resort to credit cards to survive. Some had to take out these crazy unsecured loans. It could be $1,000 to $30,000, and with interest rates ranging from 20% to 36% or sometimes more. Crazy loans. And, most of us knew that it wasn't wasn't a great financial choice, but it was a survival choice at that time, So now the economy is coming back. Unemployment's, kind of level up. We're doing well, and people are now being able to take care of a lot of that debt. A lot of folks are. So here's where your challenge comes in. And I know this is a long introduction, but it's important. Because of the debt that we're in as a nation, there's a lot of people struggling, obviously. Your challenge is to get people to talk about it, because when we're in debt, it's a very mentally straining place to be. It's a stressful place to be. It's an embarrassing place to be, and it's nothing anyone wants to talk about, right? I don't walk up to someone and say, hey, my name's Tony. I'm $50,000 in debt. How's your day going? You don't start a conversation that way. No one's going to do that. We like to kind of keep those things close to the vest, right? We don't really want to talk about it. We like to talk about our successes, how well I'm doing at my job, how well this investment
Recording
went.
in progress.
All that stuff we love to share about. Not so much the other things, right? So your challenge comes into that, because I really believe that when you're having people cancel appointments or maybe habitually rescheduling appointments, I truly believe that they're missing appointments not because they don't want the dream you're selling them, it's because they don't think they can afford the dream you're selling them, and they're too embarrassed to tell you why. So the ammunition that you have now is knowing there is a huge debt crisis. We're at record highs, 1.41 trillion. So that's kind of a nice lead when you're talking to a prospective new client. Casually guide the conversation into the state of the economy. And boy, record high debt, 1.41 trillion. That's crazy. A lot of people struggling, had to resort to this over the shutdown. How'd you do with that? How's your debt doing? Are you struggling as well? Because a lot of people are. That just reminds us as humans that we're not alone, because our ego usually gets in the way. We think we're the only one going through things, but obviously we're not. So hopefully that would help loosen up somebody to maybe get a little vulnerable with you, to tell you what's really happening in their life. so you can help them, because you can't help them if you don't know the truth, right? So, okay, that's it. So when you do have clients in debt, there's not a lot of option. Oh, and by the way, real quick, our goal is to bring a client over, because this isn't for everybody, right? This is for the folks who are struggling. These are folks who want your help, need your help, and can't afford it. When they can't afford it because what would have been cash flow, and they would have had money to buy life insurance or college funding, whatever, is being eaten up by usually minimum payments to credit cards or unsecured loans, the type of thing. That's the client you'll want to bring over to DebtMerica. I'm not talking about the client who is making payments and has excess cash to overpay and get aggressive with one. Like, debt stacking is a great option for the folks who have that liquidity and the ability to overpay. Like, they get address the higher balances, or maybe the one with a higher interest rate, and overpay as much as possible, get rid of it pretty quickly, and then focus and attack aggressively the next one. Great strategy. But a lot of people don't have the ability to do that. Those are the people we want to help. We want to give them options. No family left behind. For those families, the goal is to get them debt-free in under 4 years. We reduce their debt on average by about a third. It does depend and vary depending on who the creditors are, but on average, we reduce it by about a third. The biggest gift we're going to give that client and their family, we get to reduce their minimum payment significantly. Usually, we get to cut them as much as half those payments. That's where the relief is needed, because they're struggling. Sometimes they're working multiple jobs just to maintain minimum payments. So the relief is there, and they can see it, and it's that alone. That alone is a life changer for them. So we get them in solution to a debt problem that they didn't think they'd ever get out of. Huge. That alone. But also, we've created cash flow, because if we cut their payments in half, now if they were paying $1,000 and now it's $500, just to use an example, now you would have $500 of cash to put them into things that will change their lives, invest in their family's future, life insurance, college fund, whatever it is. So, we get to solve their problem with the debt, but also you get to change their life patterns to get them into a successful, habits. Okay, now, when they are issues with debt, not a lot of options. Debt consolidation is a loan. I want to stress that specific definition, because that's the only thing debt consolidation is. It's not settlement. It's not anything else. It's a loan. And a loan is not going to make the debt go away. It just moves it from here to there. But if you get the loan that you want, it could, better your situation, of course. So why not do it if you can get that? But you'd have to have a loan large enough to pay off all the debt you're struggling with, right? But it also would need to come with a lower interest rate to give you a lower payment, to give you some relief. Otherwise, it's not going to better your situation. Why would you do it? You wouldn't, right? The problem is, by the time most people come to the terms that what I'm doing right now is not really working, it's usually too late. Because you need two things to get that loan we talked about, large enough with a lower interest rate, low payment. You need a high or a strong credit score. And the other factor a lot of people forget about is debt to income ratio. It needs to be healthy. It needs to be, balanced in range, kind of a healthy debt to income ratio. A lot of people forget about this. They know about it, but they don't put as much weight as they should. Some people that I talk to don't even know what it is, right? And I want to stress that it is just as important as credit score. Sometimes it's more important, right? So usually one or both of those are affected, usually both. So that debt consolidation is usually not going to work for most folks. Credit counseling is an option, and it's been around for I don't know, since the 50s or 60s. And it's a nonprofit organization, which is, everyone loves a nonprofit, but every nonprofit's subsidized by somebody and incentivized by somebody. In this case, it's the credit card companies. So buyer beware, right? You figure, are they doing this to be altruistic good guys, or are they doing it because they want a payday? Because if the alternative is, before credit counseling was around, the only options really for people, aside from debt settlement, was bankruptcy, which if someone files Chapter 7 bankruptcy, it wipes everything out, and they don't get a dime, credit card companies. Walking away from their debt and throwing it out the window, that, they don't get any money for that way. So they came up with credit counseling, and the solution is lowering the interest rate, which is great. Lowering interest rate, all for it. It also shortens the term, which is also good. So instead of, 15 to 20 or 30 years, you'd be done in 7 to 10 on average. Also great. The problem is it does not lower the monthly payment. That's the one area it doesn't lower, and that's the main area that people need help. So that's why that does not work for most people. Sometimes the payment's even higher, right? So there's no monthly relief, and that's where people need the relief that we're talking to anyways, is the monthly relief. Bankruptcy, yes, bankruptcy is an option, but it should be the last one to look at. Why? Because it will follow you around and affect your credit profile negatively for 7 to 10 years, depending on the type of bankruptcy that you're going to discharge. And if you're going to discharge a bankruptcy for unsecured debt, credit cards, or unsecured loans, that type of thing, you're going to want a Chapter 7, because as I kind of mentioned before, that's the one that zeroes everything out, forgives the debt, right? That will follow you around for 10 years. Other bankruptcies, like reorganizational ones, will follow you around for 7 years. Both will affect your ability to get certain licensing, like securities licensing and other things. So bottom line is there's a lot of baggage there that's you're gonna carry around for 7 to 10 years. So there's a lot to look at, and you have to measure the pros and cons and just weigh it out and say, boy, is this worth it? Because you're gonna take that stuff with you for quite a few years, right? Also, Chapter 7, that one that wipes everything out, it's hard to qualify now. In 2008, pre-2008 was pretty easy. After 2008, it changed, because 2008 we had the mortgage meltdown. Everyone and their brother, it seems, was filing and discharging Chapter 7s. There was a lot. There were so many. They changed the qualification, so they look at things a lot closer. Anyone can still file a Chapter 7. But they're going to look at it long and hard. You're under a financial microscope. And if you're making a decent income, or if you have assets, like you're a homeowner, more than likely you'll get shifted over into a reorganizational type of bankruptcy, like a 13, which does not lower the debt that you owe. Doesn't lower your payment either. Protects you from lawsuits, protects your home if you're a homeowner, which is great, but there's no relief, right? And again, people need the relief. So that doesn't work for most folks for that reason. Debt settlement is what DebtMerica does. Okay, the whole goal of debt settlement is to get the client debt-free and fast, as I said, under 4 years or quicker, reduce their overall total debt, and again, the key is lowering the monthly payment. I'm going to hammer that in this whole training, because that is the key, because that's where people need the relief. That breathing room is so needed, that month to month, but also allows you, again, to provide them with financial products, because we've loosened up some cash, get them in that life insurance, and change their lives. No family left behind, right? So I'm going to give you an example here of a client with $30,000 of credit card debt. For this example, I'm giving them 3 to 4% interest rates. So with that, their minimum payments would be roughly $900 to $1,200 per month. Now, if they maintain just the minimum payments throughout the term of the loan, they'd be paying back roughly $90,000, taking 20 to 30 years to pay off, which is crazy, right? But that's compound interest, right? That's just the way that works. Credit counseling, $40,000 versus $90,000. Yeah, boy, that's a big difference, right? I'll take that over $90,000, $40,000. 5 to 10 years to pay back versus 20 to 30. Yeah, so far, so good, right? I mean, if these are my only two options, obviously credit counseling is the winner. But again, that's the reason it doesn't work for most folks, because there's the monthly relief. Those are other two things are great to think about, but if you can't afford it, what's the point? You can't afford it. And again, the monthly relief is where people are needing the help. DebtMerica, which again is debt settlement. On average, 2 to 4 years is our time frame to get a client through this. And as I mentioned before, on average, we'll reduce the debt that they're owing the principal by about a third. Again, it varies depending on who the creditors are, but 30 on average, we get down to about 20,000. And as I mentioned a few times, most people need that lowest monthly payment, right? As much breathing room as we can offer. So most will start with the 4-year term. And they can always change it up anytime they want. But a 4-year term in this example will get a client a payment of roughly $500 per month. Now, if they had the ability to overpay and wanted to get through this program quicker, in this example, $750 per month would get them done in roughly 2 years. And we're going to give them all these options, what their payment would be to get done in 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 18 months. And it's up to the client how quickly we go, right? So wfg.debtmerica.com that I put in chat, again, to get started, again, you don't need to be a licensed agent. You register, it takes you 5 minutes or less to do that. You fill out a couple of DocuSign documents, which are 30 seconds each to do. They're just one-page DocuSign documents. You fill out a W-9 because we pay you all directly. Then you're ready to refer clients in the upper right. And this is your own personal DebtMerica portal, right, for you. And you'll keep track of all your referrals, and you'll see who, where they are in the line and the status, and if they're enrolled. You'll see all that stuff. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a green button you'll see that it says Add New Referral. You'll click on that. And one of the questions is this for debt or taxes? Because we help with as well. Our sister company does, Optima Tax Relief. I'll talk about them in a minute. Most of the time, anyways, 90% of the time, let's say, it's going to be debt related. And by debt related, I mean anything other than taxes. So Optima is just for IRS debt or state tax debt. That's it. Anything else is debt, credit card, unsecured loans, that type of thing. And then they'll ask you minimal information about the client, their name, their email address, their phone number, the state they live in, approximate debt amount. If you don't know the debt amount, just guess. And then you hit submit. And if there's something in the comments you think that we need to know that would help us help the client, if you need a Spanish speaker, things like that, you can put that in the comments. And then you hit submit, our agent will reach out to you and say, hey, thank you so much for the referral. We're going to reach out to the client and we'll keep you updated. And they will. And we reach out to the client and we call them, of course, the client, but we also email them a couple things. One of the things we email them is a link that will let them pull their debt for us. It's a soft pull when they pull their debt. We don't see their credit score. We don't see anything but who they owe unsecured debt-wise. So credit cards and unsecured loans, collection accounts, medical debt, that type of thing. Who they owe, how much they owe, and what their minimum payments are. And it's an automated underwriting system, which is pretty awesome, that works really well. So based off our 20 plus year history of working with these client specific creditors, we'll know right away if we can save the money. And based off our past negotiations with these creditors, we'll know how much we'll be able to save each creditor, but also how much their monthly payment to get the client through this in 4 years or 3 years or 2 years or 1 year. And we're going to share all that with them. We'll share all of our fees. It's a very specific, transparent, detailed, but easy to follow quote, and with no obligation. There's absolutely no obligation for the client to move forward. I always want to stress we're not here to sell your client. We want to give them options. We're really not here to sell them. We want them to know what our option is, and it's up to the client to decide whether our option is the best option. No one else's. We'll give them a very frank and very accurate conservative quote. We'll answer all the questions very directly, and we might be the one to offer, hey, maybe look at some other options before you pull the trigger on this, because this might not be the best for you, but this is what we can do. And again, it's up to the client how quickly we go. So just a quick overview. Clients make affordable monthly payments. Funds accumulate in an FDIC insured bank account, which is in the client's name alone. It's not in our name. It's in the client's name. They'll have full access to it online at all times. It's their account. And we'll set up an automatic draft from the client's checking or savings account on a day of the month that works best for the client. And every month they will pull from their checking or savings and drop into this FDIC insured account. And we're going to save until there's enough to reach out to the first creditor. In most cases, after 2 or 3 months, there's usually enough to reach out to the first creditor, and we'll do that. We'll negotiate the lowest settlement that we believe we can get with that creditor for that client. Once we're happy with the settlement, we present it to the client because the client has to approve it. And they can say no. We can't do anything without the client's approval. If they say no, we'll move on to the next creditor. We'll circle back and renegotiate with the one they said no to at a later time. Now, most people say yes because we do a pretty good job with these negotiations. So when they say yes, they'll give us permission to go into that FDIC insured account, and we'll settle with that creditor, zeroing out that balance, and then we just repeat the process. We'll save and save and save until there's enough to reach out to the next creditor, and we'll do that until we get through all the creditors and the client's debt is zeroed out and they're debt-free. And again, 2 to 4 years is the average time frame to get a client through this. Really important for you guys to know what your clients will experience, because your clients are like family, and we understand that. We want to treat them as such. The conversation will roughly go when we call your clients, Mr. and Mrs. Client, hi, my name is Tony. Your World Financial Group agent asked me to give you a call. I understand you have some debt that you might need some options for. Do you have a few minutes to talk? And they'll say yes. I go, okay, well, can you tell me a little bit about your debt? Is it credit card debt? Is it unsecured loans? Is it something else? And roughly how much are you dealing with? So for this example, let's say it's $30,000 in credit card debt because we just went over that. Okay, $30,000 in credit card debt. So let me ask you this, Mr. and Mrs. Client, are you still making payments on the debt, or did you have to stop? Because even if you're in collections, I can still help you and you can get some benefit from the program, just so you know. And by the way, that's true. If they're in collections, we can still help. But statistically speaking, most of the people that come over to us and that we're helping are making payments. And we'll share that with the client. And for this example, let's say the client's making payments. Okay, you're making payments, Mr. and Mrs. Client, just so you know. Most of the people we help are also making payments, just like you are. But most would also add that while they're making payments, it's usually just the minimum payment to these cards and loans. And after the minimum payments are made, there's nothing left over for them to save for their family, for the family's future. And that's what's causing them the stress. And that's probably what prompted you to contact your World Financial Group agent to contact me. But in addition to making just a minimum payment, because of that, there's most of that minimum payment is going to interest, right? So the balance isn't going down in a timely manner, not the way you'd like it to anyways. And that's adding to the stress because you're feeling like you're stuck and you're not going anywhere. You have a sense of hopelessness. And then I would ask them, Can you relate to one or both of those examples I just gave you? Now, in my 12 years of doing this, almost always the client goes, well, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So, well, okay, then this program might be a benefit to you. And we'll go over the program, share what I already shared with you guys. Get you debt free in 4 years or less, reduce the debt by about a third, cut your payments in half. We'll say, does that sound like something that would work? And of course, they're going to say, cut my payments in half. Yes, let's do it. And I go, well, hold on. Let me tell you about the program first before you commit. So you know what the benefit is, and by this time they probably already pulled their debt. But to do that, to get that benefit, you'd have to stop using all the cards and all the loans that we're helping you with, that you're putting into the program for us to work with, and you'd have to stop paying on them. And that's the scary part, right? Because that's going to cause your score to drop initially, but it's temporary. In fact, after we paid off all your debt and zeroed all these balances, you'll end up with a higher credit score than you had when you came to us, right? But in addition, that debt to income ratio, which again, remember guys, if they're coming to me, their debt to income ratio is sky high through the roof. But Mr. and Mrs. Client, by the time you get to the program, yes, your credit score will be higher, but also your debt to income ratio, which is through the roof right now, will be nice and balanced. You'll have a healthy credit profile. Credit profile will be made up of debt to income ratio and credit score. And both will be in great shape. And after we're done, you'll be able to go on to do whatever you want to do with your credit, whether it's buying a home, refinancing a home, whatever it is, you'll be in great shape. But just to reiterate, Mr. and Mrs. Client, and so you understand fully, in the beginning, your credit will be under repair, so to speak, right? So you're not going to have really access to new credit until we get you down the road to that tipping point. And yeah, when we're done, you'll be in great shape. But in the beginning, you'll be under repair. So knowing that, does this still sound like an option that would work for you? We want to have this conversation on the first call. We don't want to waste anyone's time, right? We want them to know the benefit, and this is a 20-year of doing this. So it's not an experiment. We know it works, right? We know it works. But I want the client to know it works, and all I can do is present it to them based off of our work, our history of working with their creditors, but I also want them to know what they'll need to experience. And again, it's up to the client to decide, right? And most people will, in my experience, get a little pause and you're, yeah, I need to do something. Let's do it. And some not, right? Some, the idea, even though I know they're struggling and stressed out, and these a lot of times are the folks who are working the multiple jobs, they're full-time plus a DoorDash plus an Uber just to maintain minimum payments because they're trying really hard to do the right thing, and they usually have something in the future, set, a goal. And we can sense the anxiety when we're talking about score dropping and stopping payments. And we'll ask them about that. So, I couldn't help but notice the stress in your voice when I talked about, missing payments and, having to let your cards go so we can settle them for you. Are you looking to buy something and make a large purchase anytime soon? Answer's almost always going to be, yeah, I'm looking to buy a home. And so we go, whoa, that's a fantastic goal to buy a home. That's great. And as I mentioned before, we don't pull their credit score, but these folks that are kind of nervous about their score dropping, by this time they've usually told us. And their score's usually in the 600s in most cases, like low to mid, like 6 to 620, maybe 630 or 640, somewhere around there. And these are folks who have never, ever missed a payment, right? Ever. If their debt to income ratio wasn't sky high through the roof, they'd probably be in the 800s, at least high sevens, right? But the reality is it is through the roof. And that's why it's in the low sixes, right? So we'll ask them, okay, well, if you were to, go with you said the 640 score. Yeah, I believe that's enough for you. It's been a while since I've done mortgages, but that used to be enough to get a strong enough score to get a mortgage. If you were to go right now to try to qualify for a mortgage loan with your 640 score, would you be qualified or would you get qualified? And they're usually honest and they'll say no because they probably tried before they contacted you to contact me, so they already know, right? And I'll go, well, do you know why? It's a 640. It's not a bad score. It's not a great score. But, it's not bad. And they'll go, debt to income ratio, because they usually know. And in most cases, and I go, yeah, that's right, debt to income ratio. Debt to income ratio is the issue. Because your 640 score, again, it's not the best score, but it's not the worst score. The problem is it's built on a house of cards. It's a foundation that's so shaky. It's scary to mortgage lenders. There's nothing attractive about your credit profile because your debt to income ratio is so high. To them, they're looking at that and you're like one illness away from missing work and having everything fall apart. That's scary, right? So we need to strengthen your foundation. I use a lot of construction analogies, right? So we need to strengthen your foundation and we have to do a tear down first. In this case, we're tearing down your score to get rid of your debt, and then we're going to build you back up, but with a strong foundation. So when we build that score back up, it'll be a solid score, a real score, and your debt to income ratio will be in place. And then you'll be ready to qualify and get approved for a mortgage loan. And usually the light goes on for those folks. And sometimes not. Sometimes we have to part ways, and we'll give them our number and encourage them to stay in solution, call us if they need anything. And we'll keep you guys informed either way, of course. I spend a lot of time on that because that's a common concern, score dropping, qualifying for a mortgage loan. So we just want to shed the reality of, it's not just score, it's debt to income ratio. We need to get you healthy first and then build up your score. Okay. So the ones who move forward, we want them to know everything that's going to happen. They're going to get collection calls. It's just part of it. We encourage them to answer the calls. We'll give them a script. It's a really basic script. It's basically, I'm going through a financial hardship right now. I'm working on a solution. As soon as I have one, I'm going to contact you. And then you respectfully end the call. You don't need to stay on the line to become their best friend or be subject to an inquisition. You respectfully end the call. That does two things. One, it just makes us feel better about ourselves because we're not dodging calls. We're handling our business, right? We're taking care of business. That just feels good. But also by having that short, brief, little conversation with that collection agent, they legally cannot contact you for due business days. So give you a little breathing room, right? Now, rarely do creditors get legal when we're talking about unsecured debt, credit card debt, unsecured loans. They usually don't take you to court, but it can happen, right? So if a client does get a summons to show up to court, they just contact us immediately, and we'll provide that client with an attorney at our cost. We'll pay for all attorney fees. And rarely does it even go to court. We usually handle it out of court. Now, if it happened to go to court, the client would be responsible for court fees. We'll take care of all the attorney fees, but the court, they have like administration fees, which are usually $300 or $400 somewhere around there. But again, we'll take care of all the attorney fees. One of the things I love most about the program, it's performance-based. And what I mean by that is that we don't get paid anything until we successfully settle the client's debt. And that's, remember, with the client's approval, right? So we don't get paid anything up front. And once we, once we settle the debt, then we'll get paid. And our fees will range anywhere from 18 to 25%, and it's based off the amount of debt enrolled. So $10,000 to $29,999 be roughly 25%, and it goes down from there. And remember, as soon as that client fills that link that we send them, we'll know right away what their fees are. We're going to share it with them on the first call, so they'll know right up front what the fees are and what they're dealing with. And just to so everyone knows, just in case you didn't, fee is not an extra payment that the client needs to come up with every month. Everything is built into that low monthly payment that we quote the client. Settlements, our fees, everything. There are no additional payments or balloon payments or anything. Again, it's that they know this in the first call, so it's very transparent, very detailed, specific, easy to follow quote. Minimum debt to enroll a client and get your full referral fee would be $10,000. Now, if in the state of Washington, we're not in the state of Washington, and I'll get that in a minute. I'm sorry, guys. We're working on that, but we're in every other state. The state of Nevada is, I think, at $13,000 minimum right now. But even if there's a question, I always encourage people to bring the client over, because a lot of times debt shows up that they didn't even know about, like collection accounts. And even if they don't have enough for us to get them in our program, we can guide them at least to get them into solution somewhere else, right? So at least they're staying in solution is the main goal. Even if they don't go with us, we can point them to someone else. But of course, we help with credit card debt, medical debt. Business debt does need to be in under the client's social security number. Now, in cases where the client has a corporation with or LLC with a separate tax ID number, and there's debt attached to that tax ID number, only way I can help with that debt is if that corporation unfortunately went under and the tax ID number was dissolved. That debt is not going anywhere. That's not going to be dissolved. It'll stay there, it just becomes personal debt, and then I can help with it. Collection accounts we help with. Personal credit lines or unsecured loans, I kind of talked about those. A lot of them were taking that during the shutdown, so we definitely get to help with those. And deficiency balances are repossessions, right? Usually of a vehicle, car, or truck. Now, just to remind everyone, if someone has possession of a vehicle, that's secured debt. That debt's secured to that vehicle. If it's secured debt, I can't help it. I can't help with that vehicle, right? If they have possession of it. But if that vehicle was repossessed by the finance company, or maybe the client called the finance company and said, hey, pick up my vehicle. I can't afford monthly payments anymore. Come pick it up. What happens in both those scenarios is the finance company auctions the vehicle off and sends a client a bill for the difference, what they owed on the vehicle minus what they got for it at auction. That's known as a deficiency balance. So once the client has a deficiency balance in hand, I can sell that just like a credit card, works very nicely. And private student loans I can help with, not federal, but private student loans I can help. So we're in most states, but these are the states we're not in. Unfortunately, I know we have Washington on the line with us, and we're not there yet. Again, we're working on it. It's very political, just so you know. Some states are more creditor friendly. Some states are more consumer friendly. The more creditor friendly ones tend to put up a lot of barriers and roadblocks for debt settlement companies to operate in their states. They'll require brick and mortar presence in their state and other things. So we're trying to, again, we're working on it. So if you have a client in a state that we're not in, check with us before you say a definite no, because hopefully in the next 6 months we'll be in one or two of them. Optima Tax Relief. So again, this is our sister company, Optima Tax Relief. And there's a big difference in business model, so I want to stress on that before I go into it. I love the simplicity of DebtMerica, guys, because as soon as your client fills that link out, I'll know right away if I can save them money. And if I cannot save the money, don't use us. It's that simple. I love the simplicity. With Optima Tax Relief, it's not that simple because we're dealing with the IRS, which is the federal government, and there's nothing simple about the federal government. There's just not. I can't promise anyone I'm going to reduce their tax debt. I just can't. So please don't do that either. If someone comes to you and says, "Oh yeah, bring me over to Optima. I owe $50,000. I'm going to get it down to about $100 or $5,000 even." Do yourself a favor. Do not bring them over because I don't want them mad at you, and I don't want you mad at me. Definitely don't want that, right? And there are, and some of you might know this already. The federal government they do have hardship programs, reduction programs, offering compromise, a fresh start. There's various names. They do exist, but I want to stress how rare it is that people actually qualify for them. There are so many boxes you need to check and places and things to fit in. It's crazy. Rarely do people qualify for it. Okay. So I want to set expectations properly. Okay. So if we could fit somebody in that, of course we would, but I never even want to mention it because you guys are out there talking to folks. You know that if you mention I might be able to do this, they don't hear might. They say, "Well, you said you could do it." So I want people to approach this with a proper expectation. So if I can't promise or get people reduced debt, why would you even bring them over to Optima? That's a great question. And these are some of the reasons people would need help, and want to come over. But it's not about reducing debt. It's about helping the overwhelmed. Okay, and what I mean by that is a lot is going on in our lives, and for some more than others. Someone might get a tax bill and they go for the IRS. Let's say it's for $30,000. Oh, yeah, okay, well, I know what to do. Got this. They don't need us, right? Someone else might get the same exact tax bill for the same exact reason, but there's a lot going on. Maybe there's trouble at home. Maybe there's an ill family member. Maybe work is just stressing them out. There's so many moving pieces. They're getting this tax bill, and this is like the one that puts them over. I can't deal with this right now, and it goes to the bottom of the pile of I'm going to get to this when I get to this. And that's what you don't want to do with the IRS, because what they don't like to do is to be ignored. That's when you kind of wake the bear, right? And that person will more than likely end up in a garnishment. Like it gets ugly, and it's just harder to deal with stuff straight on than it is to unwind it. So that's the client you would bring over to us. We want to get them in solution, right? And what we do promise, though, if we do take on a tax client, we will absolutely solve their tax problem in the most beneficial and most realistic way, okay? And we'll go over everything, with that client. The other difference are upfront fees. DebtMerica, there are no upfront fees. In fact, I usually get to save people money because I'm usually cutting their payments in half. And they love that. It's a great thing to tell people, right? With Optima, there are upfront fees because there's upfront work to be done because we need to do an investigation to see what's going on specifically with their tax situation so we can find the best solution for them. So again, upfront work. So we work in two phases on the Optima side. There's the investigation phase and then the resolution phase. The investigation phase, and this is for folks even who may have waited too long and got the garnishment. We can help them also. For those folks, the first thing we would do at phase one rather. And by the way, the cost for phase one to the client is $495. That's the upfront cost for us to step in and do stuff. For the folks who are garnished, the first thing we would do is submit a power of attorney and stay at collection, which would remove the garnishment immediately while we're representing them, right? And it would stay removed while we're representing them. And then we would start the investigation, and also, of course, it would prevent anyone that we're helping from being garnished also while we're representing. And then we conduct the investigation, which involves talking to the revenue officer in charge of the case, finding out exactly what they're wanting, needing, expecting from the client. We're going to pull all the needed transcript years for the client, and we'll work with the client to pull off all their financials, because we need to find out where the income is, the assets are, so we can, find that solution. And we're going to compile all the information to build, again, the best, most beneficial, but also most realistic resolution plan for the client. And it takes about 2 to 4 weeks on average to complete it. Once we're done and we've completed it, we contact the client, make an appointment to go over everything. And then we're at phase 2, the resolution phase. The cost for phase 2 would be determined on the amount of work it is for the Optima team, right? At the very minimum, even if it's an easy fix, if we're doing it, it's going to be $1,000. Okay. Keep in mind, we help with private IRS debt, but we also help with small, medium, large businesses, but also mega corporations. So the cost for phase 2 could be tens of thousands of dollars. Now, on average, 3,000 to 6,000, I'd say, for most folks. And what we'll do is we'll present the client what we found to be the most beneficial path, which will get them the most beneficial, resolution, but also the most realistic one. How long it's going to take to get there, the amount of work it's going to take to get there, and the cost for us to do the work. And then it's up to the client, again, to decide whether it's a beneficial path for them to have us do the work. They might say no. They might say, you know what, I'm not going to move forward with phase 2, but just please send me the investigation results from phase 1, and I'll use that as a map to fix it myself. And that's totally fine, of course. Folks we can help on the Optima side, or individuals or businesses with unpaid taxes of $10,000 or more. We help with a lot of unfiled tax returns. We have a great tax preparation department. So, people come to us a lot just for that. We help with garnishments and levies, as I mentioned. We also help with state tax debt. State tax debt needs to be at least $20,000 for us to step in and help with that. IRS debt 10, state would be 20. Common request is for us to show up to audits with a client or in place of a client. We're happy to do that, of course, as well. So the great news is you don't need to remember anything I just said. You really don't. There's a lot of information. You don't need to be an expert on, debt relief and IRS debt. You don't. What I want you to remember is there are solutions for people in debt, whether it's credit card debt or unsecured loans or IRS debt. There's solutions for folks. Best way to present it to your clients is, hey, I've got a partner that's an expert in this type of thing. Can I have them reach out to you to give you a free quote? Again, there's no obligation to move forward at all. But this way you can look and see what this solution is and decide whether it's a beneficial way to go or not. Right? A lot of agents ask us if they can post to social media. That's totally up to you. We're totally fine with it. And a lot of them have shared the best posts that get them the most results. So if you're interested in that, we just thought we'd share it with you. Keep it brief, simple. Don't get into detail. Just, basically, anyone struggling with debt out there, I might have a solution for you. I am me. Yeah, that's it. Compensation, very simple and easy. On the debt side, it's 1% of the debt enrolled, or $250, whichever is greater. So $10,000 to $25,000 gets you $250. Anything over $25,000 gets you 1%. So $50,000 will get you $500. $100,000 get you $1,000, so on. And there's no cap on that, which is very nice. Also, it's nice, no chargebacks, yay, right? So the client makes one payment, and then we never hear from them again. We still get to get you your referral fee. On the tax side, there's 2 referral fees, because remember, there's 2 phases. So that first phase, the investigation phase, if they enroll in that, you get a $250 referral fee. If they enroll in phase 2, the resolution phase, you would get 1% of the tax debt enrolled. Now, there is a cap of $1,000 on the tax side, not on the debt side, but on the tax side. So again, this is what I shared with you in chat. So if you're not registered, please get registered. It'll take you just a few minutes to do. Again, there's a lot of families who need your help. Crazy debt, and again, people aren't going to be talking about it. You kind of have to work with them to get them to open up. This is something that we offer agents if you want a reason to gather clients. Understanding, managing, and rebuilding your credit. I call it Credit 101. It's a very simple, basic 30-minute basic webinar on the understanding of credit, the importance of it, how it affects your getting employment, getting life insurance, getting a home, of course, managing it, understanding how to read a credit report, basic stuff. But it's it's so simple, things that we think we already know and we probably at one point did, but it's just a good reminder. It's very simple, but I get a lot of great feedback from it. Initially, I think it was meant for like young adults going into the world, but most of the people I'm doing these for these days are usually like church groups, Rotary clubs, and they're my age, a lot of them, and they still get we get great feedback for it. So and it could be a group of random folks too. It's up to you. So if you'd like me to set that up, it's of course we do it, for free for you guys. So just let me know, and it works great over Zoom. So I just want to give a shout out to our agents. If you need a Spanish-speaking agent, Frederick Valencia for DebtMerica is wonderful. If you need a Spanish-speaking agent for Optima Tax Relief, that'd be Hector Marquez. He's fantastic. And these guys have been around forever. Bernie Melendez is excellent. Roberta Settle and Sean Fryer. And this is me. That's my cell phone, not my direct office. Cell phone is the only way to get a hold of me. You can email me too, but the quickest response, because I'm traveling and training a lot, would be texting me on that number. Feel free to use that. And I don't work really with clients much anymore, but I'm happy to talk to a client if you need me to, or answer any questions that you might have about the program. Utilize me. That's what I'm here for. All right. That's it. I know I started late, guys. I'm sorry about that. Do we have time for any questions if there are any?
Yes, Tony. Yeah, that's good information. And yes, we're gonna open the floor for Q&A. Anybody? We have 10 minutes to go. We can extend a little bit. Any question? We want to focus more on the debt settlement, DebtMerica side. Anybody? Any questions? Hello?
Well, there's one here in the chat. Let me see. While credit is being repaired or debt's being settled, will this show up in the credit report and or impact score? So it definitely impacts the score, because if you're going to stop for us to help and enroll whatever debt you're enrolling in the program, and you can leave, you don't really have to put everything in. You can leave a credit card or two out. We don't recommend you leave a lot out, but I always think it's good to keep one card, for emergencies. But the ones you leave in our program, you would have to stop using them and stop paying on them. And you'll never pay on them ever again. So of course, yes, that's going to impact your score. It's going to cause it to drop, and I can't predict where it's going to drop. A lot of people ask that. I have no idea. There's no exact science to it. But usually the higher the score, the harder it'll fall. But the more important thing to know is it'll settle wherever it settles, usually after a few months. And that's when usually we're going to start contacting creditors and paying them off and zeroing out the balances one at a time. And the credit bureaus, there's three of them, right? You got Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. They all update every 30 days or so. So after your score drops, you'll see it drop. You go, ugh, right? But then that's when we're going to start reaching out to the creditors. And when we reach out and zero out a balance, and then the creditors update, you'll see a little bump. Oh, okay, that's nice. And then it'll happen again to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So you'll see the gradual process, So that's what I'm saying. By the time we've done everything, the client will have a higher credit score than they had when they came to us. So ultimately, yes, it's going to improve the credit score, but also the credit profile, because the debt to income ratio is going to actually be leveled out too. So long answer to the question, but yeah.
All right. Yeah, we have Ging there.
Yes, hi, Tony.
Hi.
My question is, correct me if I'm wrong. So you don't have to be licensed to get compensated, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Anyone else?
All right. Anybody else?
Either I did such a good job explaining things, or there's a football game on.
Come on, ask questions. Either you're shy to talk, you type it in the chat. We have 7 minutes.
We're going to have to do karaoke if no one has any questions.
I have a question, Tony.
It was the karaoke for that. Okay. Go on, I'm sorry.
So, do our agents needs to be licensed to start referring?
You do not need to be licensed. No, you just need to register. Yeah, so you can have someone brand new, as long as they have an agent code, that's all they need, and they can register. They don't have to be a licensed agent.
Thank
So
you.
it's great for folks who are just starting on to make some revenue while they're getting licensed.
Okay. We have another one on the chat. What if the client is already enrolled in a debt relief program?
If they want to see what we can do and talk to us, we're happy to check with them. If they want to move over, no legitimate debt relief program can hold someone to the program. They can always leave, just like ours. You can always leave ours, right? If it's a legitimate debt relief program, we're a very regulated industry, and every legit debt settlement company is going to operate in the same exact way. They're going to have an FDIC insured account. There's limits to what they can charge. Some try a little salesy and kind of juggle. They'll overestimate what they can sell your debt to get aggressive, but there's limits there. So it comes down to really who you have a better feeling about and trust. With us, we have a 15-year relationship with World Financial Group, and that customer service, I don't know of any other debt settlement company that has what we have, because the client will have that me or whoever's helping them to call the entirety of their term. No other debt settlement company does that. You usually get a different person each time you call. So, I still get calls from people, that have helped. I got a letter. No, it's okay. So it's just, that alone is sometimes the reason someone might choose to stay or move to us. But again, we're not going to pressure anyone. If they want to just check to see, to get an idea, they might say, okay, well, that's what they're doing. I'm okay. And that's fine. We're glad to do that. So you can always send them over just to see.
Okay. And we have Ray there, and then we go to the chat.
Hey, Tony, got a question on you mentioned that on the credit cards, so you can pick, let's say out of 10 credit cards, you can do a settlement on 5 credit cards, right?
Yeah, it's up to the client. Yeah.
So I know you mentioned, okay, you can keep the other credit cards, but a lot of times, how the creditors, they tend to check, and then for as far as risk management, what they'll do is they may go ahead and shut down your other credit cards, including if you have home equity lines. They could also potentially reduce for risk analysis on their credit. Is that true?
No, absolutely, yeah, and we'll go over all that with the client. If they have credit cards that multiple from the same bank, we'll let them, because a lot of times, I want to keep 2 of the, or 3 of the Wells Fargo, but I want to, get rid of the rest of the Wells Fargo. Sometimes they're all Wells Fargo or whatever. And we'll say, okay, that's fine. You can, of course, do that. There is a chance, though, that, whatever bank it is, if they see that you've paid on these, they could shut down the others. It doesn't always happen, but there's a strong possibility it could, right? And as far as the other cards, like if they're totally separate cards, usually they don't shut them down, but they might lower the limit that they had, because the scores dropped, and there might be trouble here. They're going to lower the limit. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, we'll make sure that the client understands what they'll have to experience if they want the program.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a good question.
All right, we have one in the chat. What's the minimum amount for debt consolidation in California? Is it 10,000, Tony?
Yeah, 10,000, but we can make exceptions usually if it's not too far under 10,000. I think down to 7,500. If that were, because it's out of program guidelines, I think your compensation would be just a flat $100, just because it's we're just kind of like trying to work in it. But there's usually options for them as long as it's not too low.
Okay, and flyers and brochures are in the website for available, or can we request something to be mailed to our office?
We can mail it to your office if you want. You can. There's PDFs that you can print out on in the portal when you register. You'll see them in there. But if you want some brochures mailed out, I'd be glad to do that too.
Okay, all right, thank you. And we have Ate Angie here. Go ahead, Ate
Angie.
Ate Angie, we couldn't hear you. Please unmute.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good evening, Tony.
Hi.
Yes, I am multitasking and on your website.
Okay.
So I'm trying to register,
Huh?
and there's this on this screen, agent registration. I put my SMD's name, and even my SMT's agent code. It doesn't show anything.
It might be
And then
that-
I put my EVC, which is who is Dondon. It's not there. So this question is for my colleagues who have been registered to your website, or to you, Tony. Can you advise me on how I can register?
You can leave. You don't have to put those. So you can leave those blank, and then you can text me like tomorrow, and I'll see why they're not showing up, because they should be showing up. Because I think Donna's registered, I believe. So they should be popping up. But you can just bypass those and still register. So at least you're registered, and then we can always add those after the fact.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they are going to send me an email.
Yeah,
It
they
says-
send you a verification email, so then you have to go to the email and say, yes, it's me, and then you'll be able to get in.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're welcome. Good question.
All right. Any questions? Any more questions?
Yes, Tony, Tyrone, how are you?
Hey, good, Turner. How are you?
Quick question, if you could just simply explain your fees again
Yeah.
and what.
Yeah, so our fees will be based off the amount of debt enrolled, and the client will know it as soon as so that link we send them, they'll know once they fill it out, we'll know what their fee is, and we'll share it with them on the phone call right away. But it's on average, it starts usually at 25%, and 25 to as low as 18. Some states, I think it might be 28 sometimes. So it very like I think Nevada might have some that will go. So it will vary. But as soon as they fill the link out, we're going to share it with them before we go anywhere, so they'll know right away. And either it makes sense or it doesn't, because sometimes people focus on the fees when they should be focused on the savings, and the overall. Because even with the fees, they're going to be saving a bunch of money, and either it works or it doesn't work. We're not here to press anyone. We'll share the fees up front, and then they can decide. Then we'll answer any questions they want.
And your fees, you said that's already built into the loan and the repayment, so it's something that.
Yeah, and to make sure you understand, it's not a loan. But it's built into the monthly payment. Our fees are taken out of that monthly payment. Yeah, so they don't have to worry about coming up with, after we make a settlement. They don't have to worry about coming up with an extra payment to pay us. Everything's in there. It's built in, and we can calculate. Okay, based off of who you owe and how much you owe, it'll take you this long. This is what your monthly payment to be. Get done in 4 years, and that's pays them, reduces your debt, saves you this much, and it also pays us. So it's kind of everything, and we'll package it up so it's very easy to follow and transparent too for them. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right. We have 2 questions in the chat. Presentation. Pierce, are you talking about the slides that Tony showed us?
Oh, what's the question? I'm sorry.
He's asking for the presentation documents. I'm not sure if you can unmute, Pierce. He's asking for the slides. Is that for internal use only, or can you share it to us?
No, I can share it with you guys.
Okay. He's gonna send it to Lisel, and we'll send it to you, Pierce. And then another one from Len. I've been in contact with you and your team for your help to correct my email on your website. Oh, it's a technical question.
Len, text me at you got my 714-267-6660. Text me your full name and your agent code and what email address it should be, and I'll make sure it's corrected for you.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Any other question? It's 8:04. I know in East Coast it's 11:04. So maybe we'll entertain one more question. Anybody? Unmute or chat? Hello? So quiet. No? Going once? Twice? 3? No? Okay. Anyway, thank you, Tony, once again. what I love about the platform is, you know, what you told us earlier, no family left behind. And yes, we are in the financial industry. We help people in all aspects, whether with managing their money or whether they need help with their money. And what I love is different strategies on how to settle debt, managing debt. And yes, people might be worrying about, oh, I'm gonna pay a fee. But imagine, come to think, average credit card interest is like 25%. Do you think you're not paying fee month after month, right? So DebtMerica is one way to help us, help clients. And what's good about that? You don't need license to refer to us, to them, to Tony. Okay? Anyway, Elite Team, there would not be any training for the next 2 weeks. We will resume October 14 for product training. So those who are going to Turkey, will see you there. Those who are not, we gotta work, right? Because I remember on the first super trip, I didn't go. I was working, and you just pay it forward. You gotta work right now. Next year, we'll see you in Korea. All right? Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. Bye.